Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine, and today we are learning all about food webs. So first of all, what is the difference between a food chain and a food web? Let's say we have this carrot, which is then eaten by this lovely rabbit, who's then eaten by a wolf. This is an example of a food chain. The definition of a food chain is a sequence of organisms where energy and nutrients are passed on as one organism eats another. On the other hand, a food web is made up of many food chains, showing how an even bigger number of organisms are connected. Let's start off by drawing a couple of plants, including our carrot, some wild clover, and a few grasses. Now, our rabbit will eat all of these plants, as well as a few of our rodent friends. Some types of bugs will eat these plants too. Now, our super scary looking wolf will eat our rabbit and mouse, as will our hawk. This collection of connections is called a food web. Let's dive deeper into the levels of our food web, starting with level 1, our primary producers. Our carrot is an example of a primary producer. It takes light and energy from our cool-looking sun, as well as carbon dioxide from our air, to create its own food, as well as some oxygen. Algae does the same. Both plants and algae are known as photoautotrophs, meaning they take light from the sun and use it to create their own food. Some types of bacteria do the same. Other types of bacteria are known as chemoautotrophs, using energy from chemicals to fuel themselves. Our autotrophs make up our primary producers as the foundation of our food web and essentially sustain all other organisms. Let's continue our journey with level 2, our primary consumers. A primary consumer, like our lovely rabbit, eats the primary producers, like our plants. These primary consumers also include mollusks, which eat algae. Essentially, primary consumers are either plant eaters or herbivores, algae eaters, or bacteria-eating organisms. Next on our food web comes level 3, our secondary consumers. Secondary consumers include organisms like our snake. They eat the primary consumers, such as a rabbit or mouse, in order to get energy. These consumers are usually carnivores, or so-called meat eaters. They can also be insect eaters. Next up is level 4, made up of our tertiary consumers. One example is our hawk. These consumers eat the secondary consumers, so essentially, they are carnivore-eating carnivores. What about a level 5? In some food webs, there may be a 5th level of quaternary consumers. We'll get into why only some webs have them later. Now we can begin to build our food web. On the bottom, fueling our system are the primary producers, including our plants, algae, and bacteria. These producers fuel our primary consumers, including our rabbit, mouse, and a couple of insects. Our secondary consumers, like our snake, get their energy from eating the primary consumers, so that's why they're up next on our food web. On top, we have our tertiary consumer, our hawk, which eats our snake. He is also known as an apex predator, or the organism at the very top of a food web. And there we have it. We have successfully created our food web. Now, you may be wondering, but what about animals that eat both plants and animals? Well, to demonstrate this, let's draw our mouse. So, our mouse can eat both plants and insects. So, in order to represent this, we'll just draw a line from the plants to the mouse and from the insects to the mouse. So, our food web can kind of get messy sometimes. Before we get into energy, let's talk a little bit about our last level, which are our decomposers. They don't really fit into a level. Instead, a decomposer breaks down waste products and dead matter from all living organisms. All levels of the food web produce waste, or waste products. These are collected by the decomposer who breaks them down. These decomposers will take dead plant material, such as leaves and wood, as well as dead animal products and waste. The decomposers will take this dead matter and use it to produce carbon dioxide and water, as well as some nutrients. In a way, all matter gets recycled. Take our plant, for example. This carrot will produce both waste and dead matter, which is then given to decomposers such as worms, bacteria, as well as fungi. These fungi will convert this waste and dead matter back into carbon dioxide, nutrients, and water, which are then fuel for the carrot. It's essentially a cycle. Now that we understand our food web, it's time to get into energy, which is part 2 of this video. When the rabbit eats the carrot, energy is transferred from the carrot to the rabbit. Then, when the snake eats the rabbit, energy is transferred from the rabbit to the snake. However, the amount of energy is not the same. In fact, the snake receives less energy from the rabbit than the rabbit does from the carrot. Energy is somehow lost in a way. This leads to our question: what happens to the energy in each level? When the rabbit eats the carrot, some of the energy is used for different purposes, such as keeping the rabbit warm, as well as digestion, other body processes, to move, to jump, to breathe, as well as produce waste. Only 10% of the total energy is stored. To put this into perspective, if our rabbit eats 10 carrots, only 1 carrot's worth of energy is stored. This is the energy that's stored. This is stored as biomass, which means part of the body. Let's start by constructing our food web again. At the bottom here are our producers, and they have a lot of energy available to our primary consumers, noted by the arrows. However, from the primary consumers to the secondary consumers, energy is given off as heat or as waste products, allowing less energy to reach that level. And then, from our secondary consumers to our tertiary consumers, even less energy is available, as more heat and waste products are formed. Since only 10% of the energy consumed is stored as biomass, that's the only amount of energy that can make it to the next level. So, once it reaches the top, that's a very small number because it's 10% of 10%. To visualize this, let's say our rabbit eats 10,000 carrots. Of this, only 1,000 carrots worth of energy is stored as biomass, which the snake receives when he consumes the rabbit. Of these 1,000 carrots, only 100 carrots worth of energy is available to the hawk to consume. Basically, energy limits the number of levels from a very large amount of energy at the bottom of the food web to only a very small amount of energy at the top of the food web. If we were to add one more level on top, they'd receive an even smaller amount of energy. So, back to the food web. Next time you see a rabbit, a carrot, a snake, or any other animal in your life, think about all the little connections it has with all the other animals around it. Every organism is connected by energy transfers from eating food, producing waste. I encourage you all to make your own food webs at home, whether it be through drawing or even with your stuffed animals. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time.